Hi and welcome. My name is Lori and I'm the founder and creator over at Josie and Nina. Today we're going to do one of my family's all-time favorite breakfast brunch recipes, and it's homemade vanilla granola. And I have a few tricks for getting the big, thick, almost bark-like granola, and you're gonna love how it all comes together. All right, so a couple of things about granola. We have a magic ratio that we use at Josie and Nina. It's a 6-to-1 ratio for wet or dry versus wet ingredients. So 6 parts dry to 1 part wet. And to start the whole thing off, we're going to start with, I use these gluten-free sprouted rolled oats. I also love the big, thick rolled oats, but we're gonna start with 3 cups of oats. A little more. All right, so we have 3 cups of oats, and then are some sliced almonds, which I love so much in here. I've also used toasted pecans. Those are really great. A cup of cherries. I've used dried blueberries. Dried cherries are great and give it a lot of sweet flavor. The only tip is if you, and I know this from experience, tend to burn your granola or have happen to burn your granola, these dried cherries that are really soft can kind of get hard. So you want to keep an eye on and follow the recommended temperatures. Okay, so those are the big 3. We're also going to add in 2 different kinds. Now, where's my second kind? Of coconut. And I have just regular flake coconut, and then I have the big shredded pieces of coconut that I'm going to get in a second. All right, so to that, now that we have our dry ingredients, we're gonna put that off to the side. We have our wet of coconut oil. It really gives it a great flavor. And then we're gonna use a 1/2 cup of real maple syrup. This is not the time to use anything but real maple syrup. Mix that all together. And then vanilla. Now I mentioned that this is a vanilla granola, so we're gonna use a tablespoon of granola and pour that in. And then finally, cinnamon, Saigon cinnamon. And I usually am going to throw that into, now you can add this to your specs or your liking. I do about 2 teaspoons to a tablespoon. It just depends. Some people like a lot more, some people like a lot less. So you can be definitely generous with the cinnamon. And I have from time to time added the cinnamon directly into the wet ingredients, but I find sometimes it clumps a bit, so I prefer adding it in to the dry. Okay, and then a tiny titch, about a 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt. It really gives it that savory factor, which is great. Okay, so we have our wet, and we're just going to pour our wet right into our dry, just like that. And it's as simple as stirring it all up in the bowl. And we're going to, transfer it over. I have a sheet pan lined with parchment. We're just gonna transfer it over. And then I like to use a flat-backed spatula or paddle, wooden paddle, to spread out the granola as best you can. And trying not to, you'll see there's little holes here and here. So I just like to fill those up a little bit, because when all the granola is connected, it almost makes like a bark, like a granola bark. And you literally could almost pick it up and eat it like a cookie. But we're not gonna do that, because we're gonna break it up into pieces for yogurt and whatever else you wanna serve your granola with. Okay, so now that I have it pretty flattened, you also, oh, one more tip. You also want to make sure that it's not too thick, because that's how it's going to get. So I just keep spreading it out until I'm ready. Okay, so this whole thing is going to go into a 325-degree oven, about 25 minutes, and then we're going to put 2 different kinds of coconut. I love coconut. Just a sweetened flake coconut. You can use unsweetened, not a big deal, but the smaller flaked coconut. And then a bigger flaked coconut, and I get this one from, if you have a Trader Joe's, or you could probably find it at Costco too, but I love the texture that this bigger flake coconut adds to. All right, see you in a bit. So I just took the granola out of the oven, and it's really, oh, it smells amazing. So I'm going to sprinkle over just some of that unsweetened coconut, and then some big chunks. We are just gonna pop this back in the oven for about 3 minutes until it gets all toasted, and then we're gonna let the whole thing cook. All right, so the granola is out of the oven, and oh my gosh, okay. I'm gonna see how it comes up as a whole big chunk. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like a whole big chunk, like a big granola cookie. You don't even really taste the maple syrup. There's just the best sweetness, and the coconut adds so much texture. The cinnamon is delicious. You could add some almond extract if you like, instead of the vanilla, if you like an almond flavor of a granola, like a friend. So come back and join me each week, tableside, where we will explore different Italian recipes and things like this granola.